Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Hoops. It's your boy Matty. Thank you for your continued support. Please keep downloading and sharing us. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. On today's episode, we're breaking down the senior men's national team World Cup camp roster for Canada basketball. Who's in and who's out. The new senior men's national team head coach, Jordi Fernandez, has been hired and introduced, and we'll chat about other Canada basketball stories as well. And I'm always glad to have the homie Scott Witter. I'm going to redo that, man.
Correct.
Hang on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Hoops. It's your boy, Matty. Thank you for your continued support. Please keep downloading and sharing us. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend. On today's episode, we're breaking down the senior men's national team World Cup camp roster for Canada basketball, who's in and who's out. The new head coach for the senior men's national team, Jordi Fernandez, has been hired and introduced, and we'll chat about other Canada basketball stories as well. And I'm always glad to have our friend Scott Witter pull up to share his thoughts. Scott, thanks for coming back to join us on Canada Hoops.
Matty, my man, always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to help out. Love it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it feels like a Canada basketball summer in so many ways. Lots of great things happening with the program and the brand. But yeah, let's get into the senior men's stuff that everyone's pretty excited about. I was hoping we could start with Jordi Fernandez. That was sort of the first big news. Nick Nurse had to step down from his duties as head coach of the senior men's national team, which led to Jordi Fernandez getting hired. Your thoughts on the hire, which seems like a promising move?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about it. I'll be honest. I didn't know much about Jordi. Still don't. You know, we're reading and researching and seeing the first interviews and liking everything that we're hearing. I felt this was inevitable. I know after Nurse parted ways with the Raptors, both sides, Canada basketball and Nurse reiterated that he was going to stay on for the long haul. I felt, okay, if he stays unemployed, that can happen. But as soon as he was hired by Philadelphia, I go like, this isn't, I don't think, going to work out. So maybe that's the skeptic in me. But I think they saw it too, and obviously sounds like Nurse was very open about everything, and he was kind of pressured out of the role by Philadelphia. I get it. There's just a lot going on, starting as a new coach with a new team. So I think everything we're hearing is they quickly pivoted. Nurse was involved. The players were involved. There was familiarity with Jordi, as he obviously very well known around the league, known by a lot of the players. Has a 7-8 year history in the league. Assistant coach at Denver, long history with Murray, associate coach at Sacramento. So the guy's kind of familiar with him. I think Corey might have been under him for a year. And I think it's the right guy. He grew up as a FIBA guy, was assistant coach of the Spanish national team when they won gold medal at the last World Cup, was assistant coach for Nigeria at the last Olympics. So I think the FIBA pedigree is there. The NBA pedigree is there. He's in the running as a future head coach. We'll probably see that in the NBA over the next few years. And like I said, that balances, I think, what you need here. Guys who understand the NBA players, have existing relationships with the NBA players, but really knows the FIBA game, knows who we're playing against, knows the style, knows the strengths and weaknesses of NBA players in the FIBA setting. So I think all of that is positive. Nate remaining as assistant coaches, I think, is great. But it still creates a lot of questions. This is a new coach 2 months out of the World Cup. Do we have new systems? Do we have new sets, new tactics? we're always struggling for consistency and chemistry. This whole program put together by Nurse and Barrett, was focused on consistency and year by year, and all of a sudden Nurse steps away. But I think one thing to me is kind of proof is in the actions of what happened. All the guys showed up, all the guys who committed for the cycle, 13 out of 14 of them have showed up on this camp roster. The only one who's not there, Kem Birch, is we think hurt. We don't know for sure, but considering his last season, there's probably no way he's healthy and ready to go. But the fact that they've kind of held this commitment together, I think speaks volumes with the Jordi hire. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much. You hit it on the head. I think, the continuity obviously came into question right away with Nick Nurse having to step down, but to pivot quickly and seemingly knowing that was going to happen from the program side, in quick text conversations with our friend Mike Bartlett, they felt, and I agree as well, that they've done a good job in a short amount of time hiring Jordi, seeking out candidates and making check marks beside people they figured would be a good for the program. His connections to the NBA guys is obviously a huge positive, like you said, the FIBA experience. And I also think, personally for Jordi, like he was in some interviews for head coach jobs right away to start the off season. He interviewed in Toronto. This is a situation where if Jordi does really well as a head coach leading a program that's clearly on the rise, FIBA is all over Canada basketball. This might open a lot of doors for Jordi elsewhere, head coach jobs in the NBA. So I think he's got something to prove for himself too, and I think he's, not many of these kind of jobs come around where, okay, yeah, you're looking for NBA head coach jobs, but to lead a program like Canada basketball where it's at right now and who's playing for it and who has committed to it with the likes of Shea and Jamal, I think he's hungry, and I think he's going to really take this opportunity seriously. And that's the sense I get in any interview you see. Sportsnet did a great job with his sit down with Dan Shulman there during GLOBLJAM. And I mean, he's sitting down in front of a guy who's a supporter of the program and the network that's going to show a lot of the games. And so it all just looks really well. Like I think in some ways I feel like he could do better in this tournament just because of like circumstances than perhaps Nick would. And some of that is the short amount of time. Everyone's going to rally around that. Oh, we got a new coach. Like the commitment from the guys is obviously there that we've asked for from the summer core, and they've showed up and said, I'll be at camp. But they might really rally around Jordi and use that. And it might be a little bit of a fresh theme for the guys too, that, a few of them now have played a few games under Nick.
Right.
And I like it. I think Jordi's got a chance to do really well with his team.
Yeah. And we'll have perhaps a must-win second-round game against Spain. So It's nice to have their old assistant coach at the helm. Hopefully that provides some advantage.
Right. Like you can't tell me that like Jordi might even be looking at that right now.
Oh, yeah.
And saying like, I want that. Like that's going to be massive. And, the guys playing for Canada, they just need something to get them going in a situation like that. And that might be the rallying cry for the team. So yeah, I'm happy, man. And like, he's well respected, like you said, everywhere. That speaks volumes. The program's not going to necessarily, I don't think, pull the trigger on a hire if they don't think the players are going to buy in with that coach as well, right? So it looks good. And then the training camp roster, the summer core, all there minus Kem, like you said, and then obviously some winter core standouts who we somewhat expected. Melvin kind of slots into both. And then Tommy Scrub, Phil Scrub, Cassius Robertson, Trey Bell Haynes, and all our NBA guys. So we've got 18 going to camp. Everyone seems excited about the commitment. Were you fully expecting that? Any surprises anywhere? Just initial quick thoughts on that there, Scott.
Yeah, I think so. I had a bunch of thoughts going around my head. Is, you know, what does this commitment mean? You know, how serious are the players taking it? Is management taking it? You know, we saw last year. I was a little disappointed last year. We had these 14 guys compete. Maybe only 6 or 7 of them played in the first qualifier window or across both windows. And so I'm like, there's a lot of guys sitting out here. We had some little hiccups of guys like Dylan Brooks not showing up to one of the camps, and that was supposed to be mandatory. Murray wasn't at the second camp, but that was supposedly excused. So where Dylan's wasn't. So it was kind of a little bit like, okay, a little rocky head start. And then with the coach changeover, obviously we're thinking, hey, does this commitment still hold? Does the coach Jordi has relationships with guys like Trey Lyles. You know, we saw some stuff out there of Chris Boucher wanting to be involved, and you know, the current team meaning Nurse had not been talking to him or reaching out to him about it. So maybe there was a reset there. Maybe Wiggins didn't want to play for whatever reason. Maybe there's a reset there. We have these great young guys who were too young to be invited to this 3-year commitment. Ben Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Shaden Sharp was the door open for them. We kind of heard some little whispers that the door was open to them. They sort of wanted to play, but they noticed that they certainly had to focus on their off season. So they were kind of hemming and hawing. You know, I think they're there in the future, or at least Nembhard and Mathurin are. But they all decided, hey, I need very crucial offseason in going from your first to second year in the NBA. We're going to focus on them. I honestly don't think either of them really mattered. They're not really better than the guys we have here. But we're a little thin up front, so it would have been nice to kind of see like a Lyles or a Boucher kind of there. But that being said, this is fantastic. This is the 14 guys. We were happy when we saw the 14-man winter core. We got 13 of them here. I was, uncertain of certain players. I'm really uncertain about Jamal Murray. Everything he's gone through injury-wise and going to, winning the NBA championship this year. I think that actually helped. That kind of big monkey off your back, and I think if they lost in the finals, it'd be less likely to see him here. So he was kind of, I was always saying, hey, I don't know about Jamal 50-50 if he's going to be in. And some guys like Dylan Brooks, he's kind of a little bit of a more of a character. You never know really what he's thinking. Is it an act? Is he serious? He kind of said he would play if he got his contract lined up, and here he is. So those were kind of some of the ones I wasn't necessarily sure about, but a lot of the other guys, I think I was pretty confident. So glad they're all here. Jamal's obviously a game changer for this team, especially when you look at kind of our strengths and weaknesses. He fills a massive weakness here. And yeah, I'm pretty ecstatic. They got to cut this down to a final 12. Me always slightly skeptical and cynical, especially, we saw a couple injuries that knocked in during the exhibition games in the leading up to the 2019 World Cup. Kelly Olynyk slipped on a decal and messed up his knee, and actually missed half of the NBA season with the Heat because of that. O'Shea, something happened to him and he stepped out. He was pretty young at the time. He's just entering the NBA. Maybe a minor injury, but he was like, hey, I can't risk it. So we don't know all these guys are going to be available for the final 12. We hope they are. A tiny little injury could knock any of these guys out. The NBA, really the only way an NBA team can stop these guys from playing, like technically they're supposed to allow these guys to play. It's part of the CBA. But if there's an injury, the team doctors can come in and say no. So any little injury was going to scare the bejesus out of me until I see, a final 12 in Jakarta. That's when I'll breathe my sigh of relief that Jamal Murray's actually there. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the 18 announced, the chunk of the core. Everyone's obviously very excited. I know we were kind of putting predictions out on Twitter day of when it was said it was going to be announced that evening. I felt like I was close. A little bit of confirmation from the boss, the CEO that I was. Trey, as a winter core guy, kind of surprised me, but I know the program loves him and the guys love him. So I'm happy for him that he's there and being brought in. Yeah, with the amount of NBA guys and the talent, it's nice to see. And I felt like, the program, the people like us that support it, that cover it, I feel like in situations we caught a break. So Dylan gets his deal lined up. I agree with you. Jamal winning it this year in Denver.
Yeah.
Little sigh of relief. I think that could have changed some things had they not won it. You're looking at who's the other guy? Even O'Shea. Like O'Shea getting an opportunity now with Boston. Nikhil getting the last half of the season in Minnesota, getting comfort, getting a chance to show what he can do, feeling like, he's in a good spot now in his career in the league. Like so many things lined up months prior to this that it feels good. Like it feels like it's the right step, and the program, had things go their way accordingly. And now we're in this situation. And now, I was looking at this last night. Like I got 11 guys I would say are in as part of the 12.
Yeah.
And then my 12th man question mark, I'm looking at probably we might gonna, you're gonna lean to the side of size. So looking at Melvin, O'Shea Brissett, it's hard to say. It's gonna be, we talked about pre-episode, just the exhibition tour in the games, taking X amount of guys over there and who's gonna play well, and looking at minutes and starting rotations. And it's gonna be very hard to cut this down to 12. And this is on paper the best roster we've ever fielded at the senior men's level, like no question, right? So and just with the international experience, like a winter core guy might get that 12 spot. You never know. But yeah, excellent turnout. Great to see people committed and buying in and showing that it matters. Key pieces, obviously, that we did expect. A guy like Kelly and Shea, who did obviously play in the summer cycles last summer in Hamilton and Victoria. Excellent turnout. I think fans got to be happy. And I think you said it best on Twitter there, people are quick to say who's not there. Well, you know what? This group is insane. And I think we got to enjoy it. I think we're going to be a tough team. They just got to go win. Lots of people have said that. Get on the floor and make it happen. It's really up to the guys now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is about as good a roster as Canada can put out there, right? There's really one guy missing who could be a starter here, and that's Andrew Wiggins.
Agreed.
After that, you have probably your top 8 Canadian players out there easily. Missing a little size in Lyles or Boucher could come in, but they'd be bench guys, right? I really think you have access to every top Canadian player. your starting lineup is still Shea, Jamal, Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell. And then we can argue about kind of who's that small forward. Maybe you can push me off Powell and say Wiggins, but like in FIBA, I think we need a little bit more size. Powell is that kind of glue, dirty work guy, setting picks, rolling, finishing at the rim. He's feisty. He gets in there. He mixes it up. And you know what? He's pretty experienced. He's top 5 or 6 guys here in terms of FIBA caps under his belt. So it's really Wiggins that's missing. But other than that, we're pretty set here. Shea and Jamal Murray could be the best guard duo ever to play in the FIBA World Cup.
Right.
That's saying a lot. You think of all the American teams that have been out there, but if you go back in there and take a look at some of the U.S. kind of starting guards, there's some, you'll see guys like Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving, but earlier in their career, maybe not established. You see some other good kind of combos all through there, but to have a first team All NBA guy and number 2 on a just past championship team is extremely impressive. So there's some other issues kind of with this team we can get into. I don't know if I sort of have a final 12, but I think it's definitely not going to happen because things happen during training camp and exhibitions. But I kind of see this as you got a bunch of kind of point guards and combo guards. Shea and Jamal can play both positions. Corey Joseph can play both positions. Corey's actually our most experienced player. I think I'm going off of Nick Ruzic's kind of tracker here of Corey Joseph has like 50 official FIBA games, 68 total. So there's some non-FIBA tournaments and things like that Canada's played in. But he's your captain Canada. He's your most experienced player. And decent role player. Like he's still doing it in the NBA. And last couple seasons, he's put up 40% from 3 on a little bit lower volume, coming off the bench. That's kind of a role that I see for him with this team. I do hope he's there. Your next kind of most experienced NBA guys are Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell, and then you start getting down to the, it's Nikhil and RJ and Shea who've only played like 3, 4, 5, 6 games in FIBA, right? So I think those guys who have the caps under their belt will be there. Corey Joseph, Kelly Olynyk, Dwight Powell. And then, we're limited on bigs here. So that's a little bit scary. Obviously, Kelly and Dwight are good NBA caliber, starting caliber players. I think they play off each other quite well. They have actually a good amount of experience together, which is crucial here. I think Zach Edey is a must here based on some of the size of the teams that we're playing against.
Right.
I think O'Shea, to me has a big leg up on Edgem. I hate to say it, but Edgem's kind of in the back half of his career. His best days are behind him. We need somebody who can kind of step up and act a little bit more like a big, and I think O'Shea can do that. He's very athletic. He's strong. Still on the lighter side. Also, crucially, he can knock down threes in limited volume. At decent efficiency, not great. And then there's really not a lot of rim protection amongst this, and we need some insurance there. So I think Kyle Alexander is a must-have on this team as well. Again, he's on the thinner side, but he has good FIBA experience. Played in the EuroLeague last year, and that I think is a must-have guy considering the depth on the bench. And then amongst the guards and wings, I think it's obvious. I don't know who starts, to be honest. We've been arguing about this offline. RJ Barrett, Lou Dort, Dylan Brooks. You can make an argument for any of them. Maybe it's going to be matchup based. I like the defense off of Dort and Brooks. I really want that kind of 3 and D there. I think there's enough offense amongst Shea, Jamal, and Kelly Olynyk. Problem is you got the D, don't necessarily have the 3 with any of these guys. They're a little bit below average NBA 3-point shooters. We don't know how that necessarily translates into FIBA, which is a little bit shorter, but you got guys in your face a little bit quicker because of that. All of them can be a little bit streaky from 3. We've certainly seen Barrett throw off kind of weeks on end at over 40% shooting, but then we've seen weeks on end where he's in the low 20s. I kind of like Barrett off the bench and kind of sparking the offense and being an offensive leader from the bench. And then just having a guy like Lou Dort or Dylan Brooks just, lead us on defense and just go after the opposing kind of ball handlers. We can get into this in a little bit more detail, but a team like France doesn't have a natural point guard really on their team. They're going to be running it with kind of combo guards, shooting guards, things like that. So if you can put a ton of pressure on those guys. So that's kind of where I am. If anybody drops out, I think you're looking at guys like Pangos or Cassius Robertson for their 3-point shooting. Maybe Edgem for kind of leadership depth, Tommy for kind of an all around, jackknife or Swiss Army knife type player. But it's hard, they're going to take 15, 16 to Europe, go through these exhibition games, keep our fingers crossed. I think we saw that Jamal Murray probably doesn't play much in the exhibition games. Hopefully he's ready, because by the time the World Cup starts, because that first game against France is going to be crucial. But hopefully he's kind of dialed in, ready to go. And we'll see what we got in that final 12. That bottom 3 or 4 is really insurance, right? We're probably going to see a 8-9 person rotation. The bottom 3 or 4 guys are kind of pressed in if there's injuries or foul trouble and stuff like that. But I think I'm most interested to see what kind of Zach Edey and O'Shea Brissett can bring to the table, because I think one of those guys is going to be pressed into a meaningful role off the bench, like the 15-minute plus guy. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we're looking at the names here, and obviously we got to get through camp. I think we talked about it. Camp runs approximately August 1st, August 6th before they go overseas for the exhibition series. We might get a better idea out of camp who's gonna make the next cut type thing. With the lack of size and needing for size in FIBA, you might be right. Kyle Alexander maybe makes this team. O'Shea's kind of your last NBA guy, perhaps a little bit more length, younger, more athletic than our guy Melvin, and everybody loves Mel. Maybe Mel doesn't get in, because if Kyle Alexander makes this team, and every NBA guy goes, that's 12. Like that's 12 right there, right?
Yeah.
So
I just think you have. We don't have the bigs, right? We just. Right. I think Kyle has to be there.
And Kyle's not going to pay 15 minutes a game either. Like we know this. Like it's an insurance.
Somebody gets hurt.
Like,
yeah.
Well, it's it'll be kind of matchup driven too. Like you said, that first matchup with France, no point guards, so maybe we can roll a little, really turn them over a lot. Where that fifth guy, whether it's Dylan or Lou, gets after them big time. And but the size thing. I think Zach Edey is gonna impress us. I have a feeling about Zach in this tournament. I feel like there's no pressure for him, right? Coming off Player of the Year, great year at Purdue, going back to school, like he's going into his last year at Purdue, where it's like, he's got nothing to lose in a lot of ways. I think Zach might show us something in this tournament.
Yeah. Let's what do you think I'll give you mine, and then give me kind of strengths and weaknesses of this team relative to other teams in the FIBA tournament. Obviously, like strengths, it's just dripping with talent. Nobody has a team like this outside of the United States. And it's such a good group of guards and wings. I'm always crowing about Kelly Olynyk in FIBA. I think he's a huge difference maker here. I don't think a lot of teams have a guy like him. But it's really just, I think we got to out talent people, got to outplay them. There's depth, a lot of depth to this team as well. The issues around it, like I said, I think we've touched on. There's some size issues here. It might sound strange to a lot of people, but the FIBA game's way rougher than the NBA due to kind of rule variations, such as kind of defensive three in the key allowed. There's a little bit more aggressive kind of on ball hand checking allowed. There's it's a battle in the paint. They're letting shoves and elbows go. So teams are kind of bringing bulkier, like especially France might be an outlier, but you'll see teams with just a handful of like 6'8", 6'9", 270 power forwards, right? That are there to kind of set up walls in the paint. So a guy like Olynyk, just difference maker to be able to drag somebody out of the paint. If you don't have that, you have guys like Shea going into a paint with like three bodies in there, and it's hard to maneuver. He's probably the best in the world at it, but guys like Jamal Murray are going to get thumped in there. So size is a bit of an issue here. That's why Zach Edey, I think, is really important here, a lot more than I think a lot of people realize. It's just an NCAA player, but he's close to 300 pounds, knows how to use his body. So I think that's going to be extremely important. 3-point shooting, who we've touched on, I think is an issue here, but Jamal's a game changer. Olynyk is a game changer with their 3-point shooting. We're going to have to get some kind of shooting by committee amongst, Barrett, Dort, Brooks, Brissett, kind of all chipping in. They're all decent, but they're pretty streaky and can be very, very cold. And then we have to kind of always worry about, what kind of Dylan Brooks is out there, right? Is he going to be taking bad shots and, poor shot selection, things like that. So, and then, chemistry, consistency, always a problem for Canada. New coach. If you look at kind of the actual caps and official games of this team, we're not that inexperienced with FIBA. A lot of these guys have played FIBA. If you look at the United States team, they have like nothing. So this is going to be all new to them.
Yeah, like I agree with the strengths, guard heavy, having, like I look at a strength like with Shea and Jamal, like superstars, like bona fide superstars in the NBA. That brings a lot of confidence and a swagger. The rest of the guys know these are our two best players. I think on and off the court, just these certain facets that don't have much to do with the game itself or matchups is something that maybe we're not talking a lot about. And there's momentum. Like there's momentum with the program, with these individual players. Shea is first team, massive season, Jamal winning it. There's momentum with this group. Like, hey, it's a chance for them to finally get after it after this summer core commitment. The World Cup is here. We've qualified. We dominated qualification between summer and winter. I just think just attitude, confidence, swagger, like these are some strengths that have nothing to do necessarily with gameplay and how we've had these commitments in the program, laying it out there. Like, if you look at, okay, we got to be one of the top two teams in the Americas. Well, the U.S. hasn't had this building of momentum. And not only are we building this momentum for Canada basketball, we're doing it with guys that are busting ass of these other players in the NBA.
Yeah.
Night in and night out. So and so many of these guys that are going to play for Canada in the World Cup, there's such a familiarity and a togetherness with this group, mainly because of, like you look at the GTA guys in this team, they all know each other, all played youth together. Nikhil and Shea are cousins. Like
Yeah.
how this is set up, there's such a brotherhood. Like I gotta seeing them in Victoria, like just at the NBA guys and that they just know each other and it's a chance for them to see each other again. Like, yeah, sure they can say a quick hi during an NBA season, but this is a time to spend time together, kind of back to their roots, so to speak. I just think those little facts, Scott, are just
Yeah.
huge strengths for us, regardless of who the coach is. Maybe even regardless of what tournament it is, it's a chance to be together again.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, they're grown men and different responsibilities, but I think that is something deep down they truly enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, I think
And
that's going to be something really positive for us. And
yeah.
listen, obvious weakness for me, um, sure, size. Like I said, Zach's going to give us something. I think that is going to uh, surprise people. Um, he's come a long way in this last year uh, at Purdue with his game. I think he's a confident player. Um, yeah, and on weakness, like who knows? Maybe I'm
Yeah.
way too optimistic with a new head coach at this time of the
Yeah.
at this juncture leading in the tournament. But
Yeah.
maybe that ends
The,
up being a detriment. I don't know.
the critique with this team and the United States, like I said, everyone harps on chemistry, no time together. Don't it's a bunch of ISO ball, which doesn't really work in FIBA. Running around with your heads cut off on defense because you haven't played together, right? So just that kind of chemistry and familiarity, and then lack of experience with FIBA, which, like I said, is a very different game. It's a different ball. The rule differences are real, but as you said, I think this is something that can be formed quickly with a team that likes each other and knows each other, and they have played together, and these guys have been around the block. These are also not 19-year-old, 20-year-old leaders now. Shea and Jamal are kind of in their prime, or maybe on the young side of their prime, but the leadership and the confidence is there. So this is a team that can pull it together and get that chemistry and build that confidence. And that traditional weakness, we had it during the World Cup qualifiers. Like that was all of a sudden the strength. It was the winter core, so a different set of players, but they knew what they're doing and they were carving up teams left and right. They were going into games where I'm like, ooh, they're the less talented team, and they would just carve up teams left and right. So it can be there, and that traditional weakness could be a strength. A lot of these guys haven't played together enough for me to really think that that's going to happen, but it has potential. So I'm excited to see what these guys can do. The upside on this team is pretty unlimited. But
And you get to see it live in the flesh, my man.
yeah, I'm heading there. That's right.
Yeah, that's exciting.
I've always wanted to go to one of these events. I kind of, was thinking about the 2019 one in China, but I didn't really want to go to China. And it wasn't in a great city in China, their pool. And I was just a little dejected when we had, all these guys kind of drop out and ended up with 2 NBA players on that team. So that never happened. But this time around, I was kind of hoping it was going to be in Manila. Let's just back up a little bit here, and for maybe our listeners who aren't exactly familiar with the World Cup and what's happening, but this tournament happens every 4 years, 32 teams. I actually like it a lot more than the Olympics. Olympics ends up with like 12 teams. It's usually missing like half the teams in the top 10. It's a quick tournament. This is almost all the best teams in the world. There's a few teams in the top, only 2 or 3 teams in the top 20, maybe missing here. Teams like, Turkey and Poland and Russia and things like that. But you basically have all the best teams in the world, 32 team tournament, split everybody up in 4 pools, play that first round of pool play, take the top 2 teams from each pool, combine them into a second round. And then from there, the top 2 teams from each of those 4 pools go to quarterfinals. This tournament goes from August 25th through September 10th. we obviously camp starts in early August, and then there's about 5 exhibition games in Europe starting August 9th. I think Germany August 9th, New Zealand August 12th, and then the winner of Germany and China on the 13th. Then they go to Spain and play Spain and Dominican Republic August 17th and 18th. Then they head over to Jakarta, might have a game there, and then they play France right away on August 25th. And I will be very sleep deprived, but I will be there for that game. Canada's pool, a difficult pool, seems like it's always the case for Canada. But until we get our world ranking, we're 15th in the world. Until we get that up kind of into the top 8 or so, we're probably always going to have difficult pools, because we are the difficulty, to be honest. Number 3 ranked France, number 29 ranked Latvia, but they're very, I think, underranked. In the very low teens, kind of that 11 to 14 range. And then we have Lebanon, which is 43 ranked in the world. Top 2 teams from that, hopefully that's Canada and France, but the Latvia game is no joke and can be a very difficult one if this team is not feeling it. We combine with the top 2 teams in Pool G. That's number 1 ranked in the world, Spain, 13th ranked Brazil, Iran, number 22 ranked, and Ivory Coast, which is 42. Pretty much expect Spain and Brazil to come out of there. I think we can handle Brazil pretty easily, but Spain's Spain. They're the number 1 ranked team in the world. So to make the quarterfinals, Canada is going to have to beat certainly Latvia and Lebanon, but they're going to have to beat one of France or Spain. Maybe both. I don't know, but like they're going to have to beat either the 1st or 3rd ranked team in the world just to make the quarterfinals. We make the quarterfinals, we are going to get someone of probably Australia, Slovenia, or Germany, from France and Spain. And if there's one silver lining with this, is we're on the opposite side of the draw from the USA, Serbia. I don't know, throw Greece in there if they have Giannis. Can't meet any of those teams until the semifinals. What we're looking for here, obviously, I want to see a medal. I think this is a medal contending. It might be a little bit early for that, because we don't necessarily have that familiarity and chemistry, which is so huge in FIBA. But I think if this team gels, it's a medal contender. What we definitely need to see is the top 2 teams from the FIBA Americas, so North and South America, will automatically qualify to the Olympics. If you're not in the top 2, you're going to have to play in these last second qualifiers again, which we hate. United States is on kind of the easier side of the draw. I think that's probably given as a favorite or a likely team to finish top 2. We're probably the next best America's team, but we have the harder side of the draw. On the easy side of the draw, Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, they have a fairly light first round, and even in the second round, they probably just one of them has to beat an Italy and a Serbia to get to the quarterfinals. That's it. Those are probably the two better teams out of those combined pools. So it's a threat, and we need to perform. It's not a given that we qualify for the Olympics here. So that's kind of that. You have any comments on kind of the pools and how it all works, or who we're facing?
No, I mean, you're the man for that. I think, like, obviously, I think short term, like, I just, supporting the program and with the podcast and the relationships we have with everyone. I'm focusing one game at a time. See how we get out of our pool. See how the other pools break down. Yeah, the crossover pool into.
Can't worry about that yet.
Yeah, with Spain and Brazil, that's likely the top 2 on the other side. I want to say it's going to be obviously us and France. But game 1, I like that right away. We got to go against France. go at it.
It's
Just
tough.
tough game, but let's get it going.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a great tournament, like you said. It's you know, the best teams, much like how FIFA runs their World Cup. The World Cup for both sports is better
Yeah.
than the Olympics, in my opinion.
Yeah. Let's.
And you know, we got a shot to do well. I think um, the World Cup, you know, we've focused short term on that. You know, we're dying to get to the Olympics, but this is an important tournament. Place well, do well, avoid the qualification tournaments. Last chance for the Olympics. There's a lot of things that got to happen. You're gonna be there witnessing it. Uh, we don't know about a final roster. I mean, there's so many still unknowns with, you know, about a month and a half to go, so to speak. Um, but I
Yeah.
can't wait. Like I'm gonna whatever time it is here in Calgary with the time change, I'm gonna rock with it and really just enjoy it, man.
Nice. Yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an interesting experience. Jakarta is grown a lot as a city, and it's in a they built a brand new stadium for this. I think around kind of 15,000 capacity. Pretty sure it's ready. And it's in a nice area of the city, kind of their financial district, beautiful park. Lots of kind of interesting stuff around there. So it'll be fun just kind of visiting Jakarta. But I'm pretty stoked. Like I said, that France game, France is. We can look at France. France announced no training camp team, just their final 12 a couple of weeks ago. So
Right.
said, guys, this is a team that's probably more has an eye on the Olympics next year, but they've medaled in 2019, 21, 22, the last major events. There's some kind of sigh of relief because there was word of Joel Embiid perhaps playing for them or Wembanyama. Neither of them are playing, but they took kind of a silver medal Eurobasket team and kind of added to it. So this is a team really, 4 NBA guys, but 7 really good EuroLeague guys who have NBA experience. So this is kind of headlined by Rudy Gobert and Evan Fournier and Nick Batum and Frank Ntilikina are kind of the 4 NBA guys, but guys like Nando De Colo are really, really good FIBA players. Taz Lasor and Gershon Yabusele. What is interesting about them is they're going to come. I don't know if it's targeting us, but they're bringing a big, strong team, right? We know Rudy Gobert, one of the best defensive centers in the NBA. The backup center is a guy named Mustafa Fall, who's like 7'2", 275. Their power forwards, Yabusele is kind of 6'8", 270. Lasor is like 6'9", 260. And then their guards are pretty sizable too. I think it's a little bit more of an aging guard core, so we might have an advantage there. But it's going to be a battle in the paint. I think they typically intimidate other teams with size and athleticism. I don't think that athleticism really intimidates us, but that size is going to still be something to contend with the French team.
We'll have to put an over under on how many times Dwight gets hit in the face or falls on the floor. I
That's
think
right.
in this first game, because this is a Dwight game, big time. I mean,
yeah. Hopefully he gets the calls and hopefully he doesn't get hurt because he's going to be the main warrior in the paint, right? And then Kelly's a strong, scrappy guy. I don't think people appreciate how rough Kelly is.
Agreed.
A lot of people in the NBA like to call him cheap, but he just plays. He maximizes his abilities, right? He might not be the most athletic, so he's just boxing out, throwing elbows, pushing people around. Yeah, you're allowed to do that in FIBA, so I think he'll be able to handle it. But we'll see how some of the other guys adapt to this, and hopefully our guards and wings just don't get obliterated in the paint. But they're all tough, strong guys too, right? So I'm looking forward to kind of watching that battle on opening night.
Yeah, well said, and there'll be more to track. Leading up to the tournament with the team. Can we just touch on GLOBLJAM real quick? Are we done with the senior men's team?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how much you got to see down in sunny California, but
I caught the final, but
okay.
the pool play games I did not see.
Well, I mean, tough U.S. squads. Men's squad was represented by Kentucky for the U.S., the women for
Yeah,
Louisville. But standouts for our guys on the men's side: Thomas Kennedy, obviously, who's now a pro, and could be somebody for the senior men's team down the road. Kellen
definitely.
Tynes out of Nova Scotia, defensive pest, almost like, well, he led the NCAA in steals. He was a standout. Really enjoyed watching them. And I like Nate Mitchell doing his thing as head coach. And he just seems to be this connection between maybe that age group, even down to U19, up to the senior men's. Nate is a guy that I think is an important piece for Canada basketball. That's nice to see. And we had Scott Morrison, our Canada Hoops friend, and Kalisha Keen on the coaching staff. Um, yeah, a little bit of a lackluster performance perhaps at home, but give Kentucky credit, and
Yeah,
we
and
just
then
lacked a little scoring.
yeah, no critique against these guys. Obviously, the team last year had a little bit more higher level prospects and name brands. So
Right.
I thought these guys played pretty well, and I think there was a little bit of narrative off of kind of Nate having now a kind of a resume of teams perform better than expected, right? So he's kind of pulling teams together and playing beyond kind of what maybe your talent level is expected, right? So there's some pretty high level prospects on Kentucky. So I think the team did pretty good, and I think about Thomas Kennedy, I think he gets better and better and more interesting. I think it's more kind of a winter core guy, and we are certainly short bigs.
Right.
So he'd be a very welcome addition, I think, to that winter core. And I'm pretty interested to see where he ends up professionally in the fall. There's some commentary about the G League. I kind of hope he goes to Europe. We'll see kind of where he kind of cuts his chops. He seems like a German BBL guy to me to start. Prove yourself. He's good enough for that league. Hopefully it's not kind of a lesser league than that, and then he's got to kind of prove himself and work his way up. But that's, if I had to guess, that's kind of what my gut's telling me.
Yeah, Thomas is strong. I watched him last month here in Calgary with Scarborough, and just energy rim to rim, and really made an impact on both ends whenever he was on the floor. And I think we got him lined up to join us on the podcast here.
Nice.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. And just on the women's side, what I liked about GLOBLJAM this year, Scott, I feel like it was an opportunity for some players, especially on the women's side, to kind of just wear the red and white again. I know our Canada Hoops friend, Bryn Maskowicz, who's battled injuries at UCLA, now doing her last year, graduate year at DePaul. She was excited for that, played well. Nia Becker out of Winnipeg played well. And they just fell a little short, almost had a chance to win the game. But this tournament and, exhibition and celebration of the game that they run now in Toronto with GLOBLJAM and everything around it is a really positive thing. That age group gets a little lost in the fold once they're done at U19, and then not all of them are getting a chance to play at the senior level. So this is a great way to do it. I think Canada basketball doing a great job with the tournament. It's going to get better and better every year. Here in Canada, it's all over Sportsnet, which is always good. And hats off to Canada basketball for running another great event, and much needed. It's only going to get better and better. And listen, it's an opportunity to catch some of the younger players at that age before they potentially blow up as stars, right? So it's a cool job.
And like you said, busy. We just had kind of the women's FIBA AmeriCup, FIBA Americas tournament, and they finished third. That was early July. we had the U19 men for Canada that didn't perform that well in. What did they end up? Was it 6th or 7th, I think, or something, maybe been 8th or 9th, but wasn't the strongest team that we've ever sent. So not a bad finish. And then the U19 Women is going on right now, and Canada has a really good team here, and
they're crushing it. They're crushing it.
Yeah. So they're in the quarterfinals. Some really high level prospects. I think they're in the quarterfinals on the 21st. So that's Friday.
Right.
They play Mali. They have a nice side of the draw. They're probably going to, if they can beat Mali, they'll probably catch Spain or Lithuania in the semifinals. So that being said, that means the United States is on the other side of the draw, which is always nice. And so they got a good shot of making it to the finals. So that's something to tune into and watch if anybody else is interested.
Yeah, well, two standouts for that U19 women's right now is Silas Swords and Cassandra Prosper, who were playing at the AmeriCup with the senior women's team, and not only played there but contributed, played very well. They are definitely ones to watch down the road. They're going to be key pieces for the senior women's program for years. It's a Canada basketball. It's summer. It's exciting and lots going on, and it just feels like the wrap up of the summer with the World Cup for the senior men is going to be incredible. Maybe we'll see what the time change, my man. You and I talked about potential game recaps real quick. We'll see if we'll pull that off for the listeners and all our friends, but no promises there. But I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the summer and the tournament. Do your best to tune in and lock in and support the guys, and I think it's got a chance to be special. I really believe that. I'm not just saying that because it's something we follow and care about. I just think it just feels like this momentum and timing and attitude, perhaps. I think it could be something really cool.
I love it. I love the positive attitude, and I'm a believer too. I think it's kind of all coming together. So I'm super excited to kind of see this unfold.
Well said. Well, that wraps up another episode of Canada Hoops. I want to thank our friend Scott Witter for always pulling up. Thank you for listening. Download, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Keep supporting Canada basketball, and we will see you on the next episode.